Hi. Okay, so we're going to start our basic gloves. And if you are knitting in the round, you're going to go ahead and use your circular needles in the size that we need. And I go ahead, let me show you again how to do that. I lay my tail right on my two fingers and I hold it down with my thumb. I wrap it once, and the second time I wrap it, I pull it back and hold it back with my ring finger. Then I go ahead and use one needle. I go under that first piece of yarn. I grab the second piece of yarn and pull it through. Now this is basically just what we call a fancy slip knot. If you do a slip knot otherwise, that's fine too. So in order to start these, we are going to go ahead and cast on 40 stitches, and if you remember, I love this stretchy cast on. There are other cast ons, and if you have a different cast on that you like, go ahead and use it, but this is one of my favorites. I've noticed that it works really well with what I do. So in order to cast on, what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle up through that first. Now when you look at a stitch, there are two legs to a stitch. There's the front leg and then there's the back leg. So we're going to take it up through the front leg, and then we're going to wrap it from back to front. I take it and put it on my right hand needle, and then I take my left hand needle, and you can see I twisted it so that they're both pointing up. I take my left hand needle and I go under that first leg, and then I put it on my left hand needle and remove my right hand needle. Let's do that again. And I'm sure you've seen some of these. I've done these in just about all of my videos. I put it through the front leg, wrap it from back to front, catch it. I don't take it off my left hand needle, but I take my left hand needle to my right hand needle through that front leg, and I move it over to this needle. Let's go ahead and cast on. I won't be casting on as many as you are, because hopefully you've already seen how to use your circular needles. So if you're casting on 40, that's the number you need to make these fingerless mitts. I'm just going to cast on enough so that I can show you the stitches that you need to be able to do. And I'll probably cast on maybe 10 stitches. There will be no difference when we get to do the gusset. It doesn't matter how many stitches I have on, but in order for you to make a pair of gloves, you're going to have to at least have your 40 stitches on. And when you knit in the round, you don't have to think knit purl, knit on one side, purl on the other. You just have to knit, and that's the nice thing about knitting on circular needles rather than straight needles. We save ourselves a lot, except for our ribbing. With our ribbing, we do have to do some purl stitches, but when we do our regular knitting stitch, the stocking stitch, we just go ahead and knit the whole way around. And the same thing here. It's just our ribbing stitches that have to do the knit and purl. Okay, so let me cast on just a few more so that I make sure I have enough when it's time for us to do the gusset, this gusset, and I want to make sure that you can deal with that. Okay, I don't want to make a full pair of gloves because I make a little bit harder gloves now. That was one of my first gloves that I ever made, and I've saved them. So, okay, once you've gotten your 40 stitches on, you'll want to go ahead and find the middle, which would be 20 stitches, and you want to slide them down. Let's see how many I have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21, 22. Okay, I have 22 stitches on here. I love this yarn. I use this green yarn for examples for just about everything. And so I'm going to go 2, 4, actually I'm going to put 24 on. And you should have 40. You should have 40 cast on. This will just make it a little bit faster for me when I'm showing you what to do. So you want to move all of your stitches down to your cable so that you can pull your cable through. And I'm going to leave 12 on each side. You'll leave 20 on each side. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So in the middle, where you have 20 on one and 20 on the other, I've counted, these are my 20 stitches. I go ahead and put my needle through, and then I start to pull until it comes out a little bit, and then I push. I have learned so many times not to pull my cable because inadvertently I pull my stitches off of a needle. Okay, so we're going to start knitting in the round. And in order to knit through the round, you want to make sure that your working yarn is behind your needle and to your left, to your right. I'm right-handed, so it's on the right. So in order to do this, this is going to be your holding needle, and this is going to be your working needle. Now I hold this little tail down with my thumb across the one needle so that it stays out of my way. I don't want to knit with that little piece of tail. So on my right hand needle, where my yarn, my working yarn is coming out of, I'm going to go ahead and pull that. And then I'm going to do a rib of knit one, pull your yarn to the front, and I'm going to do purl one. And we're going to do that the entire way around this needle. So it's going to be knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. So your first row should be fairly easy. It's just a matter of when you get to the end of one needle. I'm almost there. When you get to the end of this needle, you're going to go ahead and change this from being your working needle to being your holding needle. So I've ended up on a purl. So this is what I'm saying. I don't usually pull the cable. I push so that I don't accidentally pull the wrong side and pull my, and I've done this so many times. Don't feel bad if you do it. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to put my yarn in the back, pull out my right hand needle, and then I'm going to start with my pattern again. I'm going to do knit one, purl one to the end of this needle. And there are only 2 times that you have to really be careful when you're starting. With my more advanced classes, you will learn how to fix it so that your stitches don't get twisted on the first round, but it's quite a lot to learn when you're just learning how to use circular needles and you're just learning how to handle them and keep them from getting on your last nerve, which the cables, some cables can. Now I will tell you that there are companies out there that have perfected the cable part, and the cables are workable to the point that they don't. See how mine are always twisting? There are some that don't twist like this, and I can't remember who it was. If it was, I think it might have been Addie. Addie might have. It's a very nice cable that doesn't twist and turn and foam. Okay, so what I was talking about is the second thing you have to be worried about right now is to make sure that when you get to the end of your first row, you make sure that all of your bumps are in the center, like I am, and the smooth part is on your needle. Your needles are on the outside. And then you're going to, once you start this second row with a knit, then that ladder, see there's sometimes a ladder. This is what we call a ladder. It happens when we start new stitches, when we start new rows, especially when we're doing in the round. So you're going to want to make sure to kind of tighten that up a little bit and then go ahead and do your knit purl pattern. Now, for this particular pattern, I want you to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I want you to do 12 rows of your knit purl. So this will be our second row. And once you have the 12 rows, and a lot of times I just use a piece of paper and a pencil, and I will make tick marks as I do my rows so that I know how many I've done. I do have some finger clickers that let me click each time I do a row, and you're welcome to do that. Sometimes I just find I only have a certain number of those, and usually I'll have 2 or 3 patterns going so that I don't have enough clickers. So if I don't have a clicker, I just go ahead and use a piece of paper. So what you'll notice is your knitting material, your fabric, is going to start to just hang on one end. And that's kind of how you know that you haven't twisted it. If you've twisted it, you'll know real close. By the end of your second row, you're going to know that you've twisted your stitches, and the only thing you can do is just take them off and start all over again. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this second row. I want you to do, what did we say, 12 rows? 12 rows. Count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, we're going to do 12 rows of this stitch. And remember, you're working 2 sides, so each side belongs to one row. Both sides belong to the one row. You can't just knit one and count this as 2. You have to do both sets in order to make it a full row. And let me show you. I'm going to finish these last few stitches, and then I will show you another way that you can tell whether you've finished a row or not. Once you've finished a row, what you'll see is the tail, because you start on a tail end. So when you get to the tail again, you know that you've finished another row, and so you could make your tick mark. Now, we already have two rows on this. I'm going to go ahead and let you do your ribbing, and I will be back with the next series, the next video in this series, to show you how we're going to do this and when we're going to start our gusset. So stop when you get to the end of your ribbing, and I will be back in the next video to show you what's next. Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.